All right, I want to welcome everyone to this virtual meeting of the Northern New England chapter of SABR. I'm Bruce McClure, the chapter chair, and we always hold our meetings in conjunction with the Gardner-Waterman chapter of SABR, Dr. Clayton Truder, chair. Now, as tradition states, we need to go to Joanne Hulbert up in Boston because she's going to kick us off with a poem. Joanne, you're up.
Okay. Anyway, this is poetic, but it's also going to be a little bit of language learning for baseball slang, a la 1907. And let me tell you, really, they knew how to write back then. They just don't do it the same way anymore. So here it is, but this is spring training. Not one of the 137 poems I have in that file, but this is even better. Okay, here it is. We learn that in a recent spring practice game, a certain player, the mention of whose name is not necessary, wobbled up to the nappy and laying his trusty truncheon violently against the spheroidus expectorus, I even did it, laid one down in the south parter, which the guardian of that territory failed to negotiate, that he then swiped the secondary satchel, helping himself to the tertiary valise, and came galumphing home on another player's kawasas to profound center. This, further said the chronicler, left the appendicitis bunch 2 ribs to the good and only 1 slob to slaughter. If this is the way in the nones of March, what shall we expect in the Ides of June? So said Hugh Keogh from the Chicago Daily Tribune, March 17, 1907. Now, my question is, the nones of March versus the Ides of what, could be even of March. What is the nones of March?
I have no idea.
These guys wrote so classically as one of them. Nones of March is March 7. That is the day of that game, obviously. But if you can look it up, and you can at your leisure look it up. Just put into, whichever, Google or whatever, what is the nones of March? And it probably will also give you all the other specific days in a month and what they actually mean according to the Latin calendar. So the nones of March would be March 7th. So we have the nones of February coming up in a couple of days.
I think that's, it's pronounced nones.
Well, I checked that out also, and I went in on the translator because I thought that too, but it turns out the translator said it was nones.
Okay. I'm more familiar with the Ides of March anyway.
I know, really. True.
I just looked at the calendar. It's the 5th of February. That's all I know. I'll tell you what. All right. You know what, guys? You are going to love tonight's guest. This has been a year in the making. Matt Graifer is a Florida-based award-winning professional host who has performed in front of over 1 million fans over the course of his entertainment career. He is best known for his work as the Chief Potassium Enthusiast for the Savannah Bananas and as a driver introductions announcer for the NASCAR Cup Series. He is a passionate public speaker and educator and loves keeping the energy high wherever he goes. The professor's name comes from one of his earliest jobs. He became a college professor in the field of exercise science when he was just 25 years old and spent over 7 years as a college educator. In 2022, the young professor was picked up by the Savannah Bananas to be a part of their record-breaking Bananaball World Tour, and the rest was history. And it is my honor, it is my privilege that I am so excited to say this. Matt Graifer, welcome to Northern New England. How you doing tonight?
I got to say, as a professional introduction artist, I'm pleased. That was good. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody feeling here tonight?
They're all on mute, but they're shaking their head yes.
Right. A nonverbal, emphatic body language response. There
you go.
Remember, I'm used to working, I guess, to both a remote and a live crowd, but the live crowd is definitely my preference. And this is why I'm trying to get my screen sharing permissions on. Yes, indeed. Let's do that.
You are a co-host, so you should be able to just click screen share and go right away.
Yes, but my computer does not know that that was what I wanted to do. But it should only take a second here. Here, hold on. Sorry, guys. Here I thought I was prepared, ready to go.
We love computers.
Oh, man.
Computers are fun.
Let's see. Let's see now. Here we go.
There he goes.
Is it working? We good?
There it is.
All right. Let's head there. So let me give a proper introduction to what we are going to do tonight, what we're going to talk about. And I'll even give you one of my Can we hear that? Or is it throttling the music?
I can hear you just fine. I can't hear anything else.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, and baseball history enthusiasts from the greater New England area. Good evening and welcome to what will undoubtedly be the most unique chapter meeting in your history as you sit with the Chief Potassium Enthusiast for the world famous and remarkably unorthodox Savannah Bananas. I am the host for the Savannah Bananas. My name is the young Professor Matt Graifer, and we call this thing the greatest show in sports. Now, I wasn't sure how we wanted to go about this tonight, but here's kind of what I settled on. I figured a position in baseball you don't hear a whole lot about is mine. And so what I would like to do for you, at least to kind of start, and then once I get to where the Bananas and I have meshed together and have begun our work in the last couple of years, we can open it up to questions because I'm sure you guys will have a lot of them. But let me tell you a little bit about me. You mentioned March the 7th. My birthday is March the 6th. So that was one heck of a poem selection there, Joanne. So thank you for that. Let's start from the beginning. So I grew up, I was saying this earlier, if you were listening there, I grew up in Rahway, New Jersey, northeastern New Jersey, and I am a Mets fan. We'll get to that in a minute. So let's start with the Bananas first. Our mission with the Savannah Bananas, our mission is very, very simple. Fans first, entertain always, right? Making baseball fun was really how this whole thing started. Before Bananaball, before all the craziness that got added, all the rule changes, everything else, the Bananas were, in fact, a real baseball team. They were a collegiate summer league team, a wood bat baseball league, the Coastal Plain League in the Carolinas and in Georgia. And that was how we started, and we stayed there for quite some time. But originally, it was just make baseball fun. Every night, we want to create never forget moments for our fans. Company's name over all of this is Fans First Entertainment. Every game, every interaction is a touch point to connect with people. People will forget what you said, but people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you make them feel. And so our goal every night, and not just in the show, around it, outside of it, is we want to make people feel good. Another thing that we live by is if it's normal, do the opposite. When everybody else goes left, we go right. We know that we're not for everyone, right? Bruce and I were kind of talking about this. I know there are a lot of baseball purists out there that scoff at what the Bananas are doing out in the world. And that's okay. They're entitled to that. I don't think there's anything wrong with baseball. In fact, everyone in our organization that plays baseball, we love baseball. That is the foundation of what we do. But we're finding ways to do it in a way that appeals to people now. We want to stand out, and that's really what our goal is. Stand out, have fun, and then break down barriers. And I know Bruce said he came out with a number of folks from your organization. I don't know if that's folks that are in here or not tonight, but I think one of the most important elements of what we do that makes this so special, that makes people feel so good and connect with it the way that we want, is we break down the barriers. In baseball, there are a lot of barriers between fans and players, and there's a disconnectedness. Fans might feel attached to it, but how often do you get a chance to really see and meet your heroes and talk to them? We are all about breaking down those barriers. Our players, our cast, we have people that routinely throughout the game will be up in the stands hanging out with our fans. We meet fans, shake hands, take autographs, hugs, handshakes, high fives before, during, and after the game. And those are the things I think that really make us unique, and they give us the foundation of what we are. Now let's talk a little bit about me. I said I grew up in northern New Jersey, and I am a Mets fan. There you see, that is 1986 World Series. That's me sitting on a coffee table and probably have no idea what it is that I am looking at, but that is Game 6 of the World Series. I know that might be a little too soon for you New England folks. That was a heartbreaker for sure. However, you've won a few since then. The Mets have not. So I'd say it all has worked out in the long run. But that is where I guess my fandom might have come from. I was born in 1986 at the start of it. So that is late 1986, the best year the Mets have had, ever. Maybe 1969, I guess, would rival it. But there you have it. So I grew up a Mets fan, and I have loved baseball. I didn't play a lot of sports growing up. In fact, I really didn't play much of anything. I played a little bit of soccer, but I never played baseball. That was just really not where my skill set was. In fact, I really didn't know where my skill set was for most of my life. I was just kind of wandering about aimlessly. But I was 15 years old in 2001 on September 11th, and I was in high school, and I was right outside of New York City. That is where I lived. That is where I grew up. And after that happened, you guys were all there. It was a very interesting time, and there was a really very large wave of patriotism and a connectedness, at least for a few days, that I don't ever remember feeling so strongly since, and certainly have not felt after the fact. But that, I was a sophomore in high school, and that led me to wanting to join my Marine Corps JROTC program. And again, I didn't really have any ties significantly to sports from a perspective of actually wanting to participate, but I got into JROTC, and you might be wondering, where's this going? What does this have to do with it? Well, what it has to do with it is that's the first place I ever found out that I had a talent. And even then, I didn't know what that was. But within that first year of me joining that program, that's when my instructors kind of picked me out of the bunch of us, and they said, you sound good. We're going to put you at the front of everyone, and you're going to yell at the rest of the cadets, and you're going to be a commander of our drill teams. And so that's what I did in high school. I didn't play sports, but I was remarkably involved with our JROTC drill teams. We traveled all over New England, the Northeast. I know we would always go to Gloucester. Gloucester High School was where a lot of our competitions were, and that was where our regional championships were. And then our main championships were down in Daytona Beach, Florida, which I now live about 30 miles away from. But that was the first thing that ever showed me the value of my voice and taught me how to get out in front of people, stand in front of large crowds, and memorize things. All things that I'm using now, I learned it there. That was what I did then. When I graduated high school, again, not having a real sports background, I was a much bigger baseball fan, actually, on the end of it. I didn't go to my first professional baseball game until my senior year of high school. I went to Shea Stadium for opening day for the New York Mets. For 4 years in a row, I went to the home opener there at Shea before Citi Field. And I went to Rowan University in South Jersey, just outside of Philadelphia, where we'll be playing later this year. And I graduated with a bachelor's degree in psychology way back. That's 2008. From there, I went and got my master's degree in kinesiology and started working in campus recreation in the middle of all that. So that's where I started working jobs that were fun, and I started having a lot more fun. This is me in graduate school for an ugly sweater competition. This is where, I didn't realize it then, but the fun that I had learned while I was in school and bringing that into my jobs, these were all little things that were important lessons that were shaping me and who I would eventually become. So, I spent my time in New Jersey, then moved to my graduate program was in Illinois. It was right outside of St. Louis, Missouri at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, before taking a job with that same ROTC company that we competed for down in Daytona. I did a project on them in college. researched it for a class and struck up a good conversation with the folks that owned it and moved to Daytona Beach after to work in event management. And we ran youth football events that have been going on for about 50 years now that they've run in this area. And they run all of the major Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps championship drill contests throughout the country. So those take place in Daytona, and I moved to Florida. Now, also, though, while I was there, you can see that's my TV debut. Got a little more TV time since then, but that was an Albert Pujols home run sometime in probably April 2010. Anytime the Mets came to town, I would go, and Albert Pujols would break my heart routinely. So big baseball fan, especially throughout college. When I moved down to Florida, this is where life kind of changed for me. I took the job with the JROTC Championships Company, didn't love it, and started looking for other opportunities. This is also, I met someone and had a child, became a single dad very, very quickly. Sent life into a remarkable tailspin for me. Kind of rock bottom area of life at this point. I didn't know what I was doing. I was working in college admissions, but it was more like a sales job for a career school. I was a single dad. I barely had a chance to see my son. Life was not going the way that I had anticipated, and I didn't know what to do. But some glimmer of hope and fortune kind of shone through there. And because of the degrees that I had, the university that the school I was working for, I was looking for a transfer to their campus in Daytona because it was a little closer to where my son lived with his mother. And I was looking to get a home there in the next couple of months as I crashed on people's couches and just was trying to figure out life. And I was offered an opportunity to be a college professor in sports medicine and fitness technology. I was 25 years old at the time. Actually, this month will be 12 years since I became a college professor. Didn't know a whole lot about it, but I jumped at the opportunity. And so that put me in a classroom 4 nights a week for 5 hours a night teaching school. And I did that for 4 years at the Daytona Beach campus before I got let go. They got rid of my program. We didn't have enough students enrolling, so I got let go trying to figure things out then. In that time, I met my wife. I got my home. We have 4 children together. I've got 2 stepchildren, my son from before, and then my wife and I have a daughter together. We've been married for almost 9 years now. But this sent me into an interesting phase of life. I got to take another sales job. I wasn't a college professor. I needed extra money. And this is where I picked up a job hosting live trivia. I don't know if we have any trivia hosts. If you guys have any local establishments, you've probably seen advertisements for them. People go out and they sit for 2 hours and they eat food. They have some adult beverages and they play a game of trivia. It sounds like a SABR group here might enjoy some of that, especially the sports categories that pop up in trivia. But that was the start for me in my entertainment career. I didn't know it. It was just an opportunity to make a little extra money, do something fun while I made phone calls all day. I did get back in the classroom. The college I worked for, their Jacksonville campus, was looking for someone that did what I did. So I got a chance to teach for another 3 years. So this puts us into late 2015, early 2016. This is where I'll switch gears a little bit because that same timing, and I always think about this, is once I read, the Bananas story and Jesse's story, is there were a lot of parallels in my own life going on then. So in October of 2015, this showed up on what is now the Savannah Bananas Facebook page. It was an ad. It was before the team was named. It was something put out there that said Savannah Baseball 2016, Historic Grayson Stadium. The Savannah Sand Gnats had left town, and leaving that stadium vacant, Jesse and his wife, Emily, had done everything they could to purchase a baseball franchise there that they could add to the Coastal Plain League. So it was a lower level of baseball than what had previously been affiliated minor league ball, but they were committed to bringing something new to Savannah and having fun. Now, if you know anything about Jesse's story, he'd already been in baseball for some time. He was I think it was the GM or the president for the Gastonia Grizzlies in Gastonia, North Carolina. And that team, he has gone on record as saying, was the absolute worst team in all of baseball. They had no money, no fans, no nothing when he got there. And eventually he turned that into something that was pretty successful. They were selling out routinely. They had all kinds of insane promotions, lots of really wild stuff. And he wanted to do the same thing over in Savannah. So October 2015, this went up. And man, it was bleak when they arrived at historic Grayson Stadium, because the previous tenants left them nothing, absolutely nothing. The photo on the right there, that is what is now, well, that was our office for a while. Now they have a giant office across the street, but it was one room. There was nothing in it. They had to drag a picnic table that was the only piece of furniture on, in, or around the building in. They had cell phones. All you can see, the phone wires are cut. They took everything and left nothing behind. Pretty sad state of affairs. And Jesse, his wife, their 24-year-old at the time, team president, and now our director of people in our organization, Marie, all these young folks, they upended their lives to go start new. And this is what they walked into on their first couple of days. So needless to say, their work they had in front of them, they had their work cut out for them to create this thing of having fun baseball in the city of Savannah, Georgia. They did a launch event in 2015 on November. They rented out a big area in the Savannah Convention Center, and those pictures look pretty good, but really only about 75 people came, and that was a huge room. In fact, Jesse has gone on to say that the caterer told them they felt so bad that they didn't even charge them, because the turnout to see what this new baseball team was going to be was so pathetic, that they didn't even want to charge them for hosting an event at the space. Those are the very, very humble beginning. You can see Jesse over there. He's not even wearing his yellow tux. So this is before he fully even embraced the vision of where we have come since then. If you know any more of his story, in January of 2016, he got a phone call that their bank account was overdrawn, and he and his wife, who had spent a lot of time becoming successful where they bought a beautiful home that they loved. They decided they were going to sell their home and dump whatever little money they had, for the money they could get from it, into the team and go all in on what they had. This is Jesse and Emily's crummy little apartment that they slept on an air mattress in for a few months. That's what they were willing to do. That's what they were forced to do if they wanted to realize this dream and these few people that were counting on them, so that they could make it to opening day. But before they get to opening day, they have to have a launch. So I'll play this for you so you can see it, and hopefully you can hear it. Volume coming through?
I'm not getting any volume.
No volume coming through?
I'm not going to tell you the team name. They're going to show us.
All right, do.
That's
A
right.
little better.
We have a new name for the baseball team in Savannah, and it is
Savannah
Bananas. That's right. They'll be taking the field at
There it
Graifer
is.
Stadium later this spring.
So that's the reaction. Was there volume there? Yes, I had mixed reviews. Okay, I'm seeing yes. Okay.
Yeah, that worked.
Oh, I don't know. That's odd. Some people say yes, some mixed results. Well, his face says it all. That's what they revealed the team name, and I think the internet loved it. The internet, they sold a lot of shirts right away. They were excited, but the city of Savannah, boy, they didn't love it. And that was an entry taken from a name the team contest that took place leading up to it. And by the way, it wasn't the most popular choice from the name the team. They got lots of other suggestions, and this woman wrote Savannah Bananas, and they saw it and they went, hey, I think we have something with that. And they ran with it. And that was how we started. They sold a lot of shirts. They did not even have their credit card machines working. They had to have people write everything down so they could run their orders. But folks showed up, folks bought some shirts, and that was how the team started. The fan response, as you can see, you've probably heard people say this or some iteration of it since then. Bananas, that's the stupidest name ever for a baseball team. I will never attend a game or go to Grayson Stadium until the name is changed. Boo. This is horrible in so many ways. Please tell us you're not serious. What a disaster. This is the dumbest of all names. One might go to a few games, but you can bet I will not buy any t-shirts or hats with that name. They will probably change the name. They will never. My favorite one right there in the second is the single most ridiculous, insulting, hideous, embarrassing, outlandish name for a baseball team. They will never sell a ticket. I think you all know how that has turned out. That particular comment did not age well since then. Now, they just knew they had to make it to opening night. And in June of 2016, when the Coastal Plain League started their season, they got there. It rained. It rained for hours. It was a disaster that could happen at that time. But they had a sellout crowd come out because they had drummed up so much interest. While everything was raining and all the fans were sitting there, they asked our Banananas if they could go out and perform and do a dance in the rain, which they did, and people had a blast. And we are very proud to say that since that day, every single game that we have had has been a sellout. Because people, at least in the area at the time, started to realize, hey, this is fun. There's something here. There's something great that's happening at this stadium. And for a while, it was a very, some people call it the best kept secret in Savannah or even in the Southeast. Now you see, that puts us about the same timeline. What was going on for me? What was going on for the Bananas in that time? So I had started as a trivia host, but a few years later, after people had heard me on a microphone night after night in trivia games, everyone would always ask me, do you work for this sports team? That's what you work in sports? And I would always say, no. Finally, I got tired of saying no, and I decided I needed to do something about it in sports. And so in 2018, January of 2018, I saw an ad on Facebook for a local professional wrestling company. I've been a big wrestling fan most of my life, that they were looking for a new ring announcer. They said, you need to be available Saturdays and you can't suck. And I said, well, I'm available Saturdays. I wasn't sure how the rest would go, but they said, all right, well, I sent the video in. They said, we'll try you out. This was the outfit that I wore that first night. My style has improved considerably, I think, since I started. But I began as a professional sports announcer, as a pro wrestling ring announcer. Later that year, I also, in showing one video that I had on a cell phone of me as a professional announcer, I was able to lock down a spot with the Jacksonville Sharks arena football team that performs at a pretty large arena in Jacksonville, right across from where the Jacksonville Jaguars play. And I became their in-game host. So I did that for 2018 and 2019. So my transition into sports from what I had been doing in entertainment began. I was still a college professor at the time, then swapped out for a little while before eventually becoming a high school teacher. But in that time too, I started to grow. The Bananas started to grow. They started to get a lot more notoriety. They didn't hit the scale to which they eventually hit where everyone started to hear about them. But if you were in baseball and you followed minor league levels of baseball, the Bananas started to get on more people's radar for some of their silly antics beyond just what the crazy name and very fun logo were. So in those years, the Bananas were building themselves, and I was building myself as a performer, soon transitioning into MMA, boxing, DJing more high-profile events, and so on. Then 2020 comes along, a fateful year. And I think, you guys are all into research. I think when history looks upon 2020, it's going to be an interesting take. And I don't mean on the political side or anything like that. I think what we will find is a lot of the most successful things to have come out of after 2020 are because of what they did in 2020. 2020, COVID pandemic, world shuts down, everything stops, and a lot of people lose their businesses, their livelihood. Life just changes in general. It was a very, very strange time. The Bananas, of course, were affected, and they were affected profoundly because in February, right before March of 2020, they had decided that they were going to do away with all traditional partnerships and ads in their ballpark. There was going to be no more sponsorships at all whatsoever. They decided people don't want to be sold to at our ball games. They want to buy, but they don't want to be sold to. So they threw out all of their sponsorship revenue, and then the world ended, and no one could have any baseball games or anything like that. So the timing was terrible. But the Bananas endured. They found ways to entertain. They started experimenting with this new game that we call Bananaball, and they created two teams in-house, the Bananas and the Party Animals, so they had someone to play. Georgia and the Savannah area had at least enough wiggle room eventually in the year to allow some modified versions of the game where you could have fans attend. We had to cut the amount of people, the capacity down dramatically. I think probably about 1/4 of what the traditional capacity of the stadium was. They had to be socially distant, but the Bananas played ball in 2020. They played in kilts. They started doing all kinds of dances. They started their TikTok that they started to use on social media. They incorporated grandma coaches. 2020 was I think a landmark year for the Bananas, whether people realize it or not, because they found a way to be entertaining and put out things into the world when no one else was doing so. I was doing the same thing as an announcer. As someone that lived in Florida, Florida didn't close very much. So as someone that does what I do, I had opportunities to work where a lot of people that are in my side of the industry did not. So 2020, I still managed to work all in total that year. I think about 120 events. Some events I had to work with a mask over my face for the entire time. A lot of strange events. I did virtual events, but that was the year I think I made up a lot of ground, was in 2020. And the Bananas did too. And it helped because as we then moved into, there's me at the only MMA event in the entire world in March that actually ran. This was actually like 2 months before the UFC ran in Jacksonville. I was the ring announcer for Combat Night, who I used to work for. And that guy right there, Valentine Woodburn, he's now a UFC fighter. But we were the guinea pigs of the entire world of how you could run a socially distant event. And we had to sit and all had to get tested and had to wear masks. And I was announcing into a completely empty arena and just cameras watching at home. Very, very strange time. 2021 comes along, and of course, the strings start to loosen a little bit, at least in a few places. And so for the Bananas, they decided to take this new game that they had pioneered, Bananaball, and they were going to take it on the road in what they called the One City World Tour. Because Jesse's very much about, state your intentions about what you want to do eventually. And so even though it's one city, he wanted to call it a world tour because his vision is for this to go around the world. And if you're going to have a world tour that only goes to one city, there's only one logical choice of where you should go.
Bananas One City World Tour will go to Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile, Alabama, baby. That is where the first ever road games of Bananaball were played. I always think that's funny. If you're going to play one place, Mobile, Alabama, that is definitely where most people's brains are going to go. So they took that show on the road, and man, it sold out big time. People came out in droves, and that was when they realized that, hey, wait, I think we have something here. 2021 for me on the other side was also the year that I started working in minor league baseball. I became the host for the Daytona Tortugas. They saw me doing my thing in different sports in the area, and they called me to become their on-field host. They had never actually hired someone from outside of the organization before to come and do it. And I began what was a 2-year stint of being a host for the Daytona Tortugas. So all the stuff pregame, all the shenanigans that happen in between innings of a baseball game, that was where I came in. And in my preparation for this role, now I had done it for arena football. This was the same time that I discovered the Bananas. This is the first time I'd ever heard. I saw what they were, and I was fascinated. I think the first clip I saw was of a friend of mine, Dakota Albritton, who we call Stilts, running to a base on stilts after hitting. And that I went, what is happening there? I need to know what's going on. And I started watching everything I could. And I bought a book that I think changed my life. I actually have it sitting here next to me. It was Jesse's first book, Find Your Yellow Tux, How to Be Successful by Standing Out. Standing out was a thing that I had tried to do as a performer, as my wardrobe changed and I got more colorful. And I had no idea that he existed or what he did. So even my colorful stuff, it's not because of the bananas. I was doing it for a few years up until that point. And I read his book and I was blown away. And I said to myself, I have got to meet this guy. I've got to go to a game and I need to learn from them, what they're doing. I even tweeted Jesse, I think, because I was planning on wearing suits all summer long in the Florida heat. I tweeted him and I said, how do you wear that's yellow tux all summer long? He just said, embrace the sweat. And I went, yeah, okay, I guess that's what it takes. I actually reached out to him in a couple months after, because back in 2021, Jesse Cole was a little bit more accessible than he is these days. And he obliged me on LinkedIn, and we spoke, and he said if I ever got a chance to come to a game, he'd love to give me a tour and go around. And I managed to get tickets to a game that summer, which really was the only game I could have possibly attended. I took my wife and all 4 kids, and we went up, and I told Jesse that we were coming. And I said to him, I said, by the way, I'll pack my tux, because I told him a little bit what I did. I said, if you need anything, you know, I'm there. I'm a host and an announcer. And he says, you know, on that date, I might need you. It was the only time that our PA announcer, Shark, the only game ever that he was going to miss was that game. And so he said, I don't want you to work the whole game. I want you to enjoy it. But if you want to do something with us, I might have something for you. So this is me at that game in July in 2021, where I came out as like a ring announcer, like I did in MMA and wrestling and boxing. And I was introducing players, like walking them up to the mound at a collegiate summer league game. It wasn't a Bananaball game. It was they were still in the collegiate wood bat league. So I got a chance to do that and work with them for the first time. And I got to tell you, at this point, I had already worked hundreds and hundreds of events, right? I started working events when I was in 2015. Now this is 2021. My kids, my wife, they've been with me to all kinds of stuff. They've seen everything. I've gotten to see what I thought I'd seen everything. That game, that one game, that experience was the single most entertaining, fun, unbelievable thing I had ever been to, ever. And I have never, and I still maintain this, that is the most fun that I have ever seen my kids have at anything ever, before or since. And as a father, as a parent, oh my God, like the feeling of just, you know, knowing that you were able to put something together like that they could enjoy that much. Amazing. I was hooked. I had already admired it from afar. I wanted so bad to find a way to do something else with them. And I didn't know that I ever would. It's not like there was any kind of open door necessarily to do it. Jesse had sent me a thank you card after, so, you know, I think you'll be a great entertainer. I hope we get a chance to work together in the future. Well, in the future was a few months later. They put out the ad, or the ad, not the ad. They put out the announcement of the 2022 World Tour, where they were going to 7 cities. So instead of a 1-city World Tour, they were going to take the show on the road to a number of different places. And I so badly wanted to be a part of it. And I decided to send, I put this in here because that's me and Ellie De La Cruz. And I just think that's a cool photo, because he is an absolute stud for the Cincinnati Reds right now. But that was that first year. But at the end of that year, when the Bananas announced their tour, I knew I wanted to be a part of it. And I was in a store, and I'm a big believer that if you have an inspired thought, you should act on it. And I was in Target, or in like late November, as they were starting to put out Christmas stuff, and they hadn't put out much yet, but there were only a couple ornaments. And one of the ornaments that was out was a felt, like flat banana, like a banana. It was a bunch of bananas, and I saw it, and I had this idea, and I bought it, and I bought a card, and I wrote it to Jesse, and I put a QR code in it. I almost did like a scavenger hunt. And in that QR code, I attached this video that I sent him, this unsolicited, very cringe-worthy video of me begging essentially to be a part of what they were doing. So hopefully, if your sound works, you'll see how this pitch went to join the Bananas. What's up, Banana Nation? It is the young Professor Matt Graifer. Now, you might remember me as the guy who provided some at the plate ring announcer style introductions for one of your summer games there at home in Grayson Stadium with the Savannah Bananas. Guys, I'm coming to you now. I'm sending you this video. I sent you this card because I have been so excited about the fact that you guys are going on your world tour. I know you did the One City World Tour last year. Glad to see you getting out there. And I really am excited that you're going to be coming to Daytona Beach, to Jackie Robinson Ballpark, which is my home ballpark, where I work with the Daytona Tortugas as their on-field MC. I'm sending you this video, not just to congratulate you, but that's part of it, but because I want to join your team for this world tour. I want to be a part of it. I don't need a spotlight. I don't need to be the guy out there. But for me and what I'm looking to do as an entertainer, I want to learn from the best, and I want to join the team of the Bananas. I want to see you not just in Daytona Beach, but guys, I want to see you in Savannah, Daytona Beach, Montgomery, home of the Biscuits, West Palm Beach, Columbus, Birmingham, and even Kansas City. Guys, I want to learn from the best. I want to be a part of this operation. I know I live far away, can't be at the office every day, but I think we can put something together. And if that's not convincing enough for you, I have one more plea for you. For my last final plea, I introduce to you my good friend, black guy, white violin.
What's his name?
If you please.
I didn't just call him that.
To my friends, the Bananas, in the town of Savannah, please allow the professor, who's a darn dapper dresser, to learn from the best. That's my only request. I want to put your fans first while the fun is dispersed. We'll kick down the door on your first true world tour. Please grant me this dream of joining your team. I hope you'll say yes. We'll work out the rest. What can I say, guys? I just want to go bananas with you. This crop is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. This crop is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S.
Yes, that horrible cringeworthy video is what I sent in the hopes that they would want to talk to me, and for some reason they did, and they weren't sold immediately, but we talked and pitched some ideas. They already had another host. They weren't looking for, and I in fairness, I was not looking to necessarily be one. I really just wanted to come and learn because I knew there was something for me in entertainment, whether it was with them or not, just the opportunity to learn, and they did give me that chance to do that together. And so off to the 2022 World Tour we went. It was a roaring success. I had an incredible time. I met some amazing people. I got to do some amazing things with them as we altered the landscape of sports and baseball and introduced this thing to the world. Even at the end of that season, I wasn't sure what my future with the Bananas was. We still had two hosts. I wasn't sure what 2023 would hold for the World Tour. In fact, as we got to the 2023 World Tour, they told me that they only planned on using me for 20 games. There were 87 games last year. And I showed up, and man, I worked harder than I've ever worked before. The other host left. I stepped up. I got more chances to shine. Jesse got sick. I got to take over entire games without him there. And they officially in the summertime offered me an opportunity to become full-time with them as the cast director and host for the Savannah Bananas. And so I got to leave teaching behind finally in October of this past year. I was literally moonlighting. I was a high school history teacher by day, and I was a Bananaball entertainer by night. And so now this will give you the last thing I have to show you here, little highlight of, it's my speech that I give at the beginning of every game and a little bit of what the show looks like.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, and potassium enthusiasts from around the world. Tonight, you are something beyond your wildest imagination. The Isle of Man, It's not big. This is the crucible where the fastest, hungriest, and most entertaining players are forged. It's the game of all the fans.
And that, folks, is my story. That is how I have come to be a part of this craziness. It has changed my life for the better, and one of the best parts about it is I get to help affect others' lives by having fun and bringing the joy of baseball through this new game of Bananaball. And we get to do it coast to coast, and I'm sure in the years to come, well beyond the borders of just here in the United States. So that's my presentation to you. I'm sure that all of you, being huge baseball enthusiasts that you are, you might have questions. Nothing's off limits. If I can't answer it, I'll tell you that too. But we can talk the sport. We can talk statistics. We can talk whatever that you'd like. And gosh, I'm not a teacher anymore. You don't have to raise hands. We can just unmute, and if you got something, chime in. But since Donna's being so polite, let's go, girl. What you got?
I was just wondering, you talked about barrier breaking. You ever have any girls try out for the team? And have you had any women on the team?
So not as regulars, but yes, we have, as a matter of fact. So our rodeo clown trick pitcher, Matt Wolf, if you saw him backflipping off the barrel in the video that I just showed. 2 years ago in the World Tour, his wife used to play softball and play. Actually, while we were in Columbus, Georgia, she actually pitched for the Savannah Bananas. And her husband, Matt, he had pitched just before. He put on the catcher's gear. They were the first ever husband and wife battery, I'm pretty sure in the history of baseball, definitely in the history of Bananaball for sure. But she pitched there. And then also this year, we had Jocelyn Allo with Oklahoma City. She came out and she got an at bat with us. And I think she struck out, but she was also at our World Tour announcement. So my inclination is to say we will probably see her again, though I don't know when specifically. So I think the future looks bright for having more women involved, but I just don't know the extent to what that looks like.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's funny you talk about your story and the way that you worked to get the job with Savannah. I identify with that a little bit. My wife is on the call here tonight. She could probably back me up a little bit on this. I had the same sort of, I don't know, luck when I got aligned with the woman who mentored me at the job I had in New York City for years. I worked for a rather large department store. You would have liked them, Matt. They threw a parade every Thanksgiving. And
I want us to be in that parade, by the way. That's,
you know what? I would love to see. That would be awesome. And, I got hooked up with this woman who took an interest in my development after I was a teacher for a while and got lucky. Well, here I am today. I'm not on the level you are by any stretch of the imagination, but I can say that through all those twists and turns, just like you, I'm doing what I'm doing, running this furniture store that I run, and it blows my mind every day that I am where I'm at. I never thought I'd be in this position. And it sounds like you feel the same way a lot of times. Like, what?
Life is funny. Life is very funny, and you really don't know what each turn, each bump in the road. I mean, really, I think of even, I mentioned being kind of like I wasn't homeless, but I didn't have a home. Like I think of just the bottomed out feeling that I had. Especially when I was a single dad and just I was embarrassed of just where I was in life, but it made me work so hard. Like
Yep.
even those horrible times, even the worst of the worst, when I got let go from the job as a professor, that forced me to go make extra money as a trivia host, which changed my entire life. But at the time, it was just, how can I make a few bucks so I can help us pay our bills? And um, wherever you are in life is right where you're supposed to be. Just keep moving, keep going, keep trusting that process, and you'll be very surprised at where it can take you. It sounds like you've had some similar experience. I think probably everyone can
Yep.
feel that part. Like, I think everyone's story is that the details are different, but how you are, who you are, is all because of who you were and what you did.
I agree. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, and all I can think of right now is, when's his book coming out? Because there's a book
Working on
here.
it. I've been busy. I haven't been able to
Nice.
edit it, but I've got one in the works.
Nice.
It's not as much about me as it is about how to host, but there's enough of my story is in there to kind of shows, because I think a lot of people that host on the side probably have stories kind of like mine. So,
Nice.
all right,
Molly, where are you?
you got her hand up.
She does.
So, hi, Matt. Thank you for coming to talk to us tonight. To brag about my husband a little, yes, Rory made him at Macy's, but he also, at a very young 20s, was invited to work with the Hartford Whalers, originally as a traveling secretary and then as their PA guy. So he also got his voice working in sports, and I think that's part of the reason why he's so good now on these meetings. On to my question. I wanted to know, of the places you've gotten to tour, what was your favorite city you got to visit, or town?
Oh man, there were a lot. That's a hard question to answer. I think my favorite ballpark was Hartford. I want to say Hartford. Like, what a
Village
beautiful
Park is
ballpark.
awesome,
Like,
isn't it?
oh my, Duncan Park was amazing, just absolutely incredible. I mentioned Staten Island, home of the Ferry Hawks. I don't. I'll be honest. I don't think the stadium is that nice, but that backdrop, holy smokes, that was the best view I had all year, 100%. Um, California was a kind of brutal leg of the tour. It was just a lot of games back to back to back, over and over. But we got a chance to hang out a little bit while we were there, and some of the other guys on the organization with me. We went to San Francisco, which I know gets a bad rap, but I'll tell you, we had a great time in San Francisco. We went to the Golden Gate Bridge. We went to a Giants game. We stood and took a picture outside of the Full House. We went over the bridge. We got to see some of the redwood trees. That was a really memorable part of the tour for me. So those were a couple of good spots. But man, the fans up in New England were nuts. That was probably the most intense area that we were at, where just like everybody in the Northeast was just, every town was loud beyond measure, and it's just great.
I have to tell you, when we went up to Portland to go to the game, we brought my 12-year-old son, and he was just buzzing. He was, you can ask Bruce. It was
Yep.
like you had fed him like a ton of sugar, and he was so excited, and he had his banana ball, and he was getting it signed, and oh my God, it was, as you put it, it's a night we won't forget. And he heard that there was a raffle for you guys to go to Fenway. He goes, "Are we in the raffle?"
It's true.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna be an exciting time to go there. I mean, just luckily, I was saying before to Bruce right before we started, I'm glad we get to do Minute Maid Park first to have a chance to test what this game looks like at this scale, because this thing is still in its infancy. We are still experimenting and trying to see how it works in larger and larger places. So we got a lot of learning to do. But I'm confident, just based on what I know of how we work, we're really good at figuring it out. So we're going to have some fun, and we're going to rock the house at Fenway.
Well, thank you again for coming to talk to us. And you guys truly make it memorable for your guests when they show.
Well, that's what we're going for. So thank you.
Matt,
All right. Is that Dave? Who's got their hand up?
Francis was jumping in there. He had
Oh.
something he wanted to ask. He was up for a while. Fred, go on, Matt.
Okay, thank you. Matt, I have a real interest in this, and I know my wife is going to want to watch this recording because she's from Savannah.
Okay.
And I have a lot of memories of going to Grayson Stadium way back, like in the the early 70s when Dale Murphy played for the Savannah Braves at Grayson Stadium. I wanted to ask a couple of questions about that. How many games do you actually play in the city of Savannah now? And also, what's the condition? What's the condition of Grayson Stadium now?
It's still old, if that's what you're asking. And I mean, you could see that and feel it in some places more than others. But we do a pretty good job of taking as good a care of it as we can. We've actually been putting in a ton of work. Lots of renovations have happened in this current prep season that we have just been in. I mean, even right now, I mean, we have games happening in 2.5 weeks, and they're still putting in seats because we're adding 1,000 seats to the stadium there. But they've got about half of them in already. The other half are going up now. So I mean, I think that's just one of the most amazing things that there is this old ballpark that was scoffed at, that you know, an organization like the Sandats was like, build us a new stadium or we're leaving, we can't play here, it'll never be successful here. And we're adding 1,000 seats this year, and taking as good a care of things as we can. I mean, you can see the age of that ballpark in certain places, but I would venture to say that the condition of it is maybe a little bit better than you might remember your last visit.
Well, actually, I liked the Spanish moss that was out in the parking lot. That was a pretty, you know, the trees out there back then. But how many games are actually, how many games do you play there a year now?
It's about a third of our games. So we've got about like 80 or 90 games in a season. I don't have a number off the top of my head. I've got schedules around here somewhere, but it's high 20s, low 30s. You know, so we actually play more now than we did when we were a Coastal Plain League team. It's actually a few more games just because our season is longer, so we have more opportunities to come home and entertain our fans.
Yeah. Well, I'll just my last comment is that the name Bananas, when I first heard of the Savannah Bananas, brought back memories for me because in about 1970, the early 70s, I played on a softball team, amateur softball team. That was the Bananas, and our shirts had a banana on the front, and on the back it said the team with appeal, A-PEEL.
You guys were ahead of the curve. That's
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Well, thanks, Francis.
Yeah.
Dave Mesra, you're up.
Hey, Bruce, Molly, Matt, thanks for hosting this. I'm not in New England. I'm actually on the call from Detroit. I'm a SABR member, and a fellow SABR member buddy of mine told me that you'd be on the call tonight. So, young professor, pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet everyone. You probably don't know anything about me. In a nutshell, I work with the Friends of Historic Hamtramck Stadium. It's an old Negro Leagues ballpark here in a little neighborhood in Detroit called Hamtramck. Once it was home of the Detroit Stars, and we've recently renovated it. I'm not sure if it's as old as Grayson, but I actually put on a game there where Jack White from the White Stripes came and played a charity baseball game with the local 9. And I have a little Grayson Stadium history I wanted to share with you. And I don't want to drag this out too long, so maybe we can follow up offline. But I'm also a journalist, and I'm working on a story about a guy in Savannah. He is, and I have to be careful, I don't want to give too much away here, but he's a native of Savannah. He played in the Braves system back in the 70s. He played at Grayson Stadium in the late 70s. And he had a cup of coffee with the Braves. I won't mention his name right now, but I hope you'll all be hearing about him very soon. He's very unique in that he was on the Braves roster for 42 days in the summer of 1980. But they sent him back to the minors after that, and he was a he was a star in AAA, he was a superstar in high school, 4-sport star. But after 42 days on the Braves roster, he went back to the minors, never to get called up again. And all these years later, it turns out he's 1 day shy of qualifying for a pension from major. Oh, and the kicker is in September, I think it was September the 28th that season, 1980, the Braves and the Giants were rained out and they never made that game up. And so I'm working on telling his story. I'd love to tell you more about him. He lives in Savannah, and he recently sent me a picture of himself in his Braves uniform, standing in front of his old stomping grounds at Savannah at Grayson Stadium. So I thought you might like to know a little bit more about him. I can tell you offline, but I just wanted to join the call to tell you all a little bit about him. And thanks for having me tonight.
That's what's so cool about our stadium. And Jackie Robinson Stadium is the closest stadium to me, and that's the oldest active ballpark in all of minor league baseball. I love those old ballparks. I as somebody that taught history for a couple of years, baseball has such a wonderful, rich history. There's so many cool stories, and so many stories that you don't know because so many people have been involved. I just love going to these places because you just think of all the memories, all the things people have experienced, and the fact that some of them are still up and running, and you can go and just enjoy things at it now. It really, I think it ties all of time together of everything that's ever happened there. I always love hearing stories from.
Do you know what year Grayson Stadium opened?
I want to say, I think because it got knocked down with the big storm, so they had to redo it. So I want to say it's 1936 now.
Okay, 36.
Yeah. But
thanks for having me, and let me know. I can't hang on the call much longer, but let me know if I could reach out to you offline.
Yeah, Dave, I'm easy to find. If you just don't look for Matt. If you look for Matt Graifer, you won't find him. People barely.
The young professor. Oh, yeah, I've seen your website. Right.
Everywhere. But thanks for jumping in, and thanks for sharing that.
Thanks for having me, everyone. Thank you.
Glad you came in, Dave.
If I could pop back in, I'm not 100% sure of this, but my father-in-law, who of course now is deceased, but he was an engineer, and he told me that the stadium was actually built with Franklin Roosevelt's WPA money.
Maybe that sounds about right. He did give a was it a State of the Union address? He had a big, there's all kinds of photos and footage of FDR giving a big speech at Grayson Stadium, which is another really just cool thing that got to happen there way back in the 30s.
Karen Holleran's had her hand up. Go get him, Karen. Hey,
I'm from Pittsburgh, and since you have Bananaball, we have pickleball.
Is that what you're into? Everybody's into pickleball these days.
Well, we had pickleball before everybody else.
All right. Yeah. Well,
because of Heinz factory.
Well, a couple of our guys are from the Pittsburgh area. Ryan Cox, who led the entire team, both teams really, in trick plays last year. Ryan Cox is from Pittsburgh, and our bat trickster, Alex Ziegler, Ziggy, he's also from Pittsburgh, and he has 4 Guinness World Records for balancing things on his nose and chin and face. What an odd talent, but man, he's good at it. And his moves as a bat trickster of flipping that bat, they're in 2 video games. They're in Apex Legends and Fortnite. And if no one on here knows this call, if you have kids or grandkids and you ask them, they'll know what we're talking about.
Well, this is fun. You make it fun.
I'm glad. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Even Bruce makes things fun.
Oh, thanks, Karen. I appreciate that. I can hear it dripping out of you, my friend. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Larry, did you have a comment? Larry Pucciarelli?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
No, I'm just glad you're still on. I was late, but thanks very much.
All righty. Donna, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to ask just one more thing, if I could. So I know that Noah is now, he's a party animal in the Bananaball universe. So I was just wondering, like, as you guys go on this world tour and you're playing and at some of the local teams, are you guys scouting at the same time, or did he just see what you guys were doing, fall in love with it, and approach you about a tryout?
I imagine it was probably a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I mean, when you have an opportunity to mix it up with other squads, which we did last year, which we are not doing this year, but we did last year, you get a chance to see guys in action, up close and personal, and not just playing baseball, but playing the game of banana ball. And they have an opportunity as much as anyone in those circumstances to let their personalities shine. I mean, you know, being able to play baseball is, of course, a huge part of what we need from players that we recruit and add to the organization. But you know, that's not the number one thing that we need. Like, you need to be a good human being. You need to be fun. You need to be able to put fans first. You need to be able to flip that switch of being super competitive and really good on the field, and then jumping up and putting on a tutu if we ask you to, and dancing around with a little girl in front of the dugout. Like, these are literally things we ask guys to do with no notice. And if there's even a second's hesitation, that's not a guy that's going to be the right fit for us. So, he may have had that. He may have also had connections with some of our players or some of our coaches, because, you know, they've all played ball too at different levels and independent ball. And so it's, you know, the baseball world, as they say, is a very, very small world. So I'm not sure as to what his connections were, but, you know, coming from Staten Island, he probably had a chance to show up and show out a little bit. And when they were putting together the closed tryouts that they had, I'm sure there was a reason that he was invited and then ultimately made the squad.
Thanks.
You got it.
What else do we have for Matt this evening? Does anybody else want to jump in here? Paul, did you want to jump in?
I just want to say a thank you to Matt. I really enjoyed how you got there. And if you get a chance to see Bill Lee before I do, I want you to say hello to him, because when I've spoken to him, he tells me he just had a ball with the Savannah Banana organization. So I've known Bill for a long time, and he's enjoying it. And if you get a chance, as I said before, I get to see him, say hello. I'm going to be down in your territory in Daytona in March. And Bruce, thanks to you, I got a contact to do a talk down there at Jackie Robinson Park. So Matt, if you're in the area, maybe we can get together.
Yeah, depending on when you're here. I know March is, you know, it's a busy month with this tour start. This tour starts this week. I don't think I mentioned that. Like, opening day is 3 days from right now in Tampa.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll stay in contact. But I enjoyed your story, and congratulations to the Savannah Banana organization. I know anywhere I've gone, I just came back from Pittsburgh and did a talk there, and actually there was some conversation about the Savannah Bananas in between talks. People are saying, "Have you heard about this team? Have you heard about these guys? They're having fun." So the word is moving along pretty well for that team. So congratulations to your involvement also.
Well, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it, man. Great to meet you as well.
Dixie, where are you, buddy?
I'm sure it had to be a special date on your calendar last year. How did your game go in Cooperstown?
Oh my God. I don't know how I didn't mention Cooperstown. Amazing, incredible. I brought my entire family up with me, you know, wife and kids, and we drove all the way up from Florida to go first to Syracuse and then to Cooperstown, and got a chance to experience the Baseball Hall of Fame, just the town of Cooperstown, the surrounding areas, and then just to be out there at Doubleday Field. It was amazing. It was incredible. And to have, again, I forget, it was 10,000, 12,000 fans out there, just lining through the streets of Cooperstown, New York, just out to see what we're doing, you know, thinking of all the history there. And then you're looking at, you know, I think we very much represent the future of what baseball can be, and what sports can be, and kind of marrying those two worlds together as a way to close our season. Not to mention, it was such a linchpin game, because, and I don't know if you guys watched Bananaland on YouTube. That was our series. The first season was on Hulu. What was on ESPN Plus. And then the second season is on YouTube for free, but it followed our journey throughout the entirety of the 2023 season that ended in Cooperstown. And the Bananas had to only win one more game to beat the Party Animals for the year. And the Party Animals rallied 8 games in a row at the very end to tie it up in Cooperstown. This is why people think we stage it. We don't. But it was like storybook. And it was Bananas Party Animals with the season on the line in Cooperstown. And the Party Animals won the whole thing in Cooperstown. And, you know, and that's how our season ended. But what an incredible place to just have that be the end of our story for such a landmark year for us, and just for us as fans of the game and lovers of history like myself. Just amazing. And I was really happy I got to see a Honus Wagner baseball card in person. That was pretty.
I hope you know that they just finished remodeling that entire ballpark.
Yep.
That last year.
Well, I mean, it was beautiful. It was in pretty good shape, and I didn't have any complaint. We had to bring in all kinds of stuff to do what we do, but you know, that's par for the course. We had to do that in Birmingham as well at Rickwood Field. That was, you know, 1910. That's an old ballpark, the oldest, in fact.
Well, you know, I'm going to encourage everybody here on the call and everybody watching on YouTube to check out the Savannah Bananas website, because they're not just entertainment. They're not just baseball, a comedy troupe, whatever you want to put on them. Check out Bananas Foster. Check out the things that they do in the communities that they go to in their own community. I think you're going to be very surprised at the level of integration with the baseball community and their own community in general that they have. Matt, tell us how we can watch the Savannah Bananas at home, or how we can stay in touch with you and watch your growth too.
So when it comes to the Bananas, we are pretty easy to find across all your platforms, social media. The Savannah Bananas on YouTube is probably your best spot, because that's where you can watch full games in their entirety, and you can watch old games too. You can watch the entire last season. All those games are there. And then we have and it's not like a rinky-dink minor league baseball broadcast. It is tons of cameras, lots of production, drone cameras, drone footage. Wild, crazy antics, insane broadcasters in all the best ways. So if you're looking for something really, really spicy to watch at home, that's still baseball, I think that you'll enjoy that. So go check out the Savannah Bananas across all platforms of social media. And then for me, if you're looking to keep up with me specifically and my contributions to what we do, I go professionally by The Young Professor. You just type that in, you will find me. But across all platforms, that handle is at Young Professor G.
That is great. You know what? I got to say it again. Matt Graifer, I cannot thank you enough for coming in to chat with us tonight and do this for us. I am very, very grateful to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, everybody else. Thanks for taking your time, spending a end of your busy Monday a little bit with me here in front of all of my action figures and things that really scream that I'm an adult. So thank you, everybody.
You know what? We're all a little bit of a kid, so that's just great. So Matt Graifer, this has been fantastic. I want to thank you very much for doing this. We will be meeting again next week on Monday to discuss the bylaws. If you're a voting member of this chapter, you will get an email on that. And on Tuesday, the 13th, we will be having another one of our fast-moving Diamond Discourse sessions at 7 o'clock. All links for those will be going out in the coming days. Let's get everybody out of here so they can get back to their Monday night and get ready for Tuesday morning. Matt Graifer, thank you very much. We will catch you down the road on the Savannah Bananas on YouTube. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Night, guys.